almost like the Flashpoint, where it starts, one of the key matrix lines that will help shatter this status centralized system.
I'm drowning, asphyxiated. I wanna break the spell that you've created. You're something beautiful.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2013, and you have found yourself watching another episode of Flashpoint Radio. I am your host, Jay-Z, and while we made it through another April 1st, April Fool's Day, unfortunately without someone telling us that the country we live in and the things we have to deal with are just a big joke. No, this is real. The stories covered here on Flashpoint Radio and InfoWars and other places that bring you the truth are real. We are in dire straits here. We are in desperate times and a need for people to wake up. So please spread this information any way you know how. Facebook, Twitter, emails, talking to your friends and family, speaking up at work, wear a Flashpoint Radio I'm with Alex t-shirt. Do something. Get involved so we can take back our country. It didn't happen overnight, and the answers won't come and the solutions won't come overnight. We have to start somewhere. We have to begin to work towards an end goal, which is true liberty for all. We're going to look at some firearms-related stories this evening. Gun control, namely, we'll look globally and we'll look domestically. And then I want to end this evening with a few stories about some crimes that took place around the country that sound a little bit fishy. We'll start this evening with some Second Amendment stories. I wish I covered more. From Reuters, Georgia town passes law requiring residents to own guns. A small Georgia town on Monday passed a law requiring the head of household to own a gun as a way to keep crime down. Sounds great. That's awesome. I'm glad they did that. Good step in the right direction. The ordinance, approved unanimously, is symbolic, however, because there is no penalty for violating it, which is true. There shouldn't be a penalty for violating it. Kind of like traffic laws and everything else. You break a traffic law, it was a mistake, the cop pulls you over, says you broke a traffic law, now be on your way. I think that, proves that the state really wants us to change our behavior and not just earn money or take money from us through fines. Another one from CBS DallasFort Worth, free gun program plans to expand to North Texas. This story is about the Armed Citizens Project, which is raising money to give free guns to residents living in high crime areas and to single women so they can defend themselves against criminals. Sounds like a good idea. I would say if you have to take our tax dollars, if you have to take money and spread it around, buy people guns that are responsible so they can protect themselves. We'll save money on policing our streets. Maybe we'll solve our public employee pension problem. But sadly, those are the only two good stories about the Second Amendment I have for you. We'll move right to the United Nations. The Washington Times, UN passes sweeping international arms regulation viewed by some as Second Amendment override. The United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday signed off on a sweeping first-of-its-kind treaty to regulate the international arms trade. And this is the arms trade, the UN Arms Trade Treaty, the ATT, that everyone's been up in arms about, which they should be. It's global governance. This is global regulation. It means nothing as long as we keep our sovereignty in this country. But the problem is, if we keep electing globalist-connected politicians, they will cede our sovereignty to the United Nations. President Obama is a big supporter, and his administration a big supporter of this. Watch this. The UN is a bad organization. Bad organization. But we'll move domestically to Connecticut. Connecticut lawmakers unveil bipartisan gun control plan. With announcement of sweeping proposal to curb gun violence, Connecticut lawmakers said they are hoping to send a message to Congress and other state legislatures across the country. A bipartisan agreement on gun control is possible. Oh yes, this is a very reasonable compromise made on gun control. They're not infringing on our Second Amendment rights at all. No, you can stay out of my state, people. I'm sure this came from Bloomberg's gun task force made up of mayors, and federal funds was pumped into this movement to get this law passed. But let's look and see what this law does. Boston.com runs it down. Ban sales of high-capacity ammo mags. Background checks for private gun sales. That's a big one. That means you can't probably give a gun to your son or your brother without having a background check, going to a gun store or a firearms store and filling out paperwork and paying a fee. New registry for existing mags that carry more than 10 bullets. Statewide dangerous weapon offender registry. That's the sexual predator list. Immediate universal background checks. Increased minimum age to 21 for semi-auto. Expands requirements for safe storage of firearms. So they're going to come into your home and make sure you're keeping your home, inside your home, things that never leave your home, proper. It also works on school security and mental health. Bans people who voluntarily commit themselves from buying a firearm for 6 months, and 60 months for people involuntary committed, which you can be involuntary committed even if you're not crazy if you get on the wrong person's list. Expands training to help teach people to recognize the signs of mental illness in young people. That's spending money. Creates group to study state mental health care system. That creates government jobs and wastes taxpayer dollars. Requires that requests for insurers to cover certain mental health services be considered urgent and shortens the time for review from 72 to 24 hours. Not sure why you have to get insurance companies involved. But it's not just Connecticut. We have from the San Bernardino Sun, California lawmakers consider regulating, taxing ammunition. Gun control advocates in Sacramento are putting a new twist on an old NRA slogan. Guns don't kill people, bullets kill people. They look to make a firearm nothing but an expensive paperweight. Supporters of the Second Amendment say it's a way to red tape the right to bear arms to death. Well, of course, they know what they're doing. They can't come for our guns directly, so they'll come for what our guns shoot. No thank you. If you have the means to reload your own dang bullets. You might be able to save some money if you can find the supplies. From the Daily Caller, Democrats propose $10,000 fine for gun owners who don't have insurance. A contingent of liberal Democrats is proposing new federal gun control idea, mandatory liability insurance for gun owners. The only thing I want to point out at this article, exceptions will be made for law enforcement, military, and employees of government departments and agencies. So yes, if you work for the TSA or the IRS or the Social Security Administration, or I believe the Fish and Wildlife Service, yeah, you don't have to have insurance for your firearms. You're good. You're good to go. You've signed on to the government's plans. You've signed your soul over to this demon that populates our country and runs the country from Washington, D.C. No, police are exempt. But should they be? From HamptonRoads.com, Norfolk deputy leaves gun in Macys dressing room. The Norfolk Sheriff's Office says it has disciplined a deputy who accidentally left his gun in the dressing room at the Military Circle Macys on Monday. The deputy realized as soon as he returned home that he had left his weapon behind and immediately notified the store and the Norfolk Sheriff's Office Professional Standards Division. I think I got that. Yeah, I'm sure if someone, a private citizen, had left their gun in a dressing room, I'm sure they would have been charged with a crime. I can guarantee it because there would be children around and they would be able to claim delinquency of a minor or endangering the welfare of the public. But no, this is a police officer, an agent of the state. They are immune. And finally, Colorado. This is from almost 2 weeks ago. Colorado Governor Hickenlooper signs landmark gun control bills. So it's moving around the country. You need to check with your state and make sure they're fighting back, or at least there's somebody fighting back. Governor John Hickenlooper signed landmark new gun laws on Wednesday, expanding background checks and gun purchases and limiting size of ammunition magazines, which it has forced Magpul Industries, which makes wonderful magazines for AR-15s. I own 10 of them. They're moving their operations out of Colorado as soon as possible, and I say go for it. But there's more to this story than we really see on the surface, because we have this from ABC News. Error led to Colorado prison chief shooting suspect Ebel's early jail release. Yes, the day before the governor signed that gun control bill, a man, Evan Ebel, supposedly killed the director of corrections in the state of Colorado, Tom Clements. Well, they say that a clerical error let him out of jail 4 years too early. 4 years too early. I'm not saying false flag with this, but it has too many question marks to be let go. And the namely largest question mark I have about this is this. The DenverChannel.com. Governor John Hickenlooper unknowingly referenced Evan Ebel in statement about Tom Clements' death. Now, this is before Evan Ebel had ever been mentioned as a suspect the day after the killing, and he was speaking at a press conference, and he said, I'd had an old friend whose son had gone on the wrong track and been arrested and put into the administrative segregation for long period of times. You know, solitary confinement. And he was mentioning how he talked to Clements, the new Colorado corrections director, about reducing solitary confinement. Turns out, John Hickenlooper is very good friends with the father of Evan Ebel, the man who they've tied to white supremacist groups that supposedly killed this man. Let out on a clerical error and related to the governor of a state who just signed landmark gun control regulations. I don't know. Ask yourself. But the story they've been trying to tie it to is the slaying of Texas District Attorney Mike and Cynthia McClellan. Mike McClellan was the district attorney for Kaufman County, I believe it was. His assistant was murdered, I believe, 30 or 60 days before he was. And, well, people have been trying to tie that murder in Colorado because white supremacists have been associated or linked to that, to this murder or these murders, and now the Mexican drug cartels. Now you ask yourself, has the United States government or its agencies ever been involved in infiltrating white supremacist groups and possibly inciting violence? Yeah, they have. Look it up. And has the United States government ever had a hand in arming the Mexican drug cartels? Yeah, it's called Fast and the Furious. So these stories need to be watched because there could be government fingerprints behind these. And I'm not talking false flag, Newtown shooting fingerprints. I'm just talking about possible ineptness by our government officials. So watch these stories. Who knows? There's too many connections to ignore. But one thing to not ignore is that you're a sovereign citizen, a child of God, and the government does not own you. They just don't. You have to assert yourself as a free, sovereign man, even if you're a woman. You're a human being. You're not beholden to other people's debts or other people's whims, especially people you don't elect. That's all I got for you tonight on Flashpoint Radio. Went a little long this evening. I hope you come back and see me next time. Jay-Z saying God bless and keep your eyes to the sky.